So, Dr. Ted, how did you get interested in medical Qigong medicine? And then you describe how you died 2 times and crossed over and came back.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a unique story, but then again, maybe not. I don't know. I don't really talk to other people who crossed over too frequently. Everybody has a story. Mine was in the hospital, so it was clinically documented. I was dead the first time for well over 15 minutes, which is a pretty long time to then come back to the shock of the doctors, quite literally. And in that transition, I started to understand a lot of things. And I understood that my physical body was very weak. My chi, my spirit, my shen was enormously strong. But the host body was very weak. And I understood at age 5 that I needed to do something. And so I turned to my parents and I said, well, you're 5. You don't know about the world. And I turned to my parents and I said, so what do I do? And my dad, very, very, without hesitation, said, God helps those who help themselves. And I said, okay, what does that mean? I don't know what to do. And, my dad had this wonderful wisdom, and he basically said, well, do what you love. And I said, oh, that makes it easy. I love martial arts. And because I was fascinated with Bruce Lee at the time. And, I think as a lot of people were at that time. And so we found a martial arts school that didn't go so well. I ended up with an asthma attack, ended up back in the hospital, But anyway, it worked out because the instructor felt so bad about the incident that he started to volunteer to come to my house and train me privately, not just in martial arts, but in meditation. And he started to show me acupoints to massage and for my asthma. And so I started learning about meridians and acupoints at age 5.
Wow.
To obviously help me. So if I would get into an asthma attack, I had tools. I had breathing techniques. I had meditation techniques. I had point therapy that I could self-administer, that I didn't have to wait to go to the hospital. So there was things that I could do to empower myself, and that made me feel like I could handle this, because one of the worst things is the fear with asthma. You never know when it's going to literally attack. And so it's quite, you go through a lot of trepidation, not knowing if you're going to get one at school, if you're going to get one when you're over your friend's house, over your relative's house. Middle of the night, you could wake up with one. So there wasn't any time that you were safe. And having tools to know that I could take care of myself was critical. It was instrumental in my psyche to understand that I now can manage this. And so, having those tools is what propelled me to get deeper and deeper into exercise science, because now I could build that body back up. So I can remember when I was 10 years old, I asked my mom and dad for a barbell set, which was unheard of at that time. Weird people went to gyms and lifted weights and those kind of different things. That was like a subculture that we didn't talk about. But I knew that that's what I needed to do. So anyway, that started my love affair with Chinese medicine, with meditation techniques, with breathing techniques, understanding fear from the real experience of what fear can do to your mind, and then also having tools to learn how to conquer that fear and empowering oneself to overcome obstacles that everybody said was terminal.
See, this is what's so interesting, Ted, because now why usually, I guess, back then a couple of years ago, then parents would seek all kinds of traditional medical treatment and inhalers and whatever else was available. So your father, in his wisdom, directed you in another way. But
Right.
so they didn't keep seeking medical stuff and you had to walk around with an
They did.
inhaler or anything?
They did. We used the best of both worlds, which is still my way of looking at the world today. But the problem was, at that time, there wasn't the advances in asthma care and therapy.
Okay.
And so at that time, the best thing that I remember is I never finished a school year because I was in an oxygen tent in a hospital. That's what they did for you.
Oh, wow.
They put you in an oxygen tent and hope to God that you could survive, which was contingent on your heart being strong enough to basically go through this exacerbated kind of breathing. And so, you know, and part of that while I was in these oxygen tents is I was using the meditation techniques that was taught to me by my martial arts teacher. And, you know, so they're very limited in what they can offer me. And yet what I had insofar as tools was far more than anybody could offer me in the West.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I wasn't trying to use what was in the West, but it wasn't really working. So I had these other set of tools that I was using and really coming to rely upon and believe in because I used them every day.
Mm-hmm.
I used them to go to school. I used them to basically go outside, to basically, you know, go into environments that I was allergic to.
Wow.
And so I knew they worked. I knew they worked by direct experience. And that, when you have that kind of truth, no one can convince you otherwise.
Yes.
If the physicians would say, oh, I don't even understand what you're doing Chinese medicine, that can't work.
Yeah.
I would go, well, you know, it's working better than anything that you're currently giving me.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the funny thing is my parents kept trying. We went to Mayo and Cleveland Clinic and all the places that at that time were supposed to have answers. And in my condition, nobody really had the answers. It was just so bad.
Wow.
And so, you know, I became to rely upon these tools as my lifesaver.
Okay. Here's what I find fascinating about you. One of the many things I find fascinating is someone says, this is the best we can do when it comes to Western medicine. But you and your parents said, okay, thank you. That's the best you can do. Now let me see what else is available.
Right.
Not just, oh, golly, Neds, I'm doomed.
Right.
I'm never going to be well again. I'm going to die, or the most horrible catastrophe is going to happen. I'm going to be limited in my life. The quality of my life is never going to be good. You didn't do that. You said,
No.
I'm on a search here to find the answers.
Well, here's what I found is that my father was and my mother both were very staunch Catholics, Roman Catholics at the time. And he really had a belief. They really had an unshakable belief that there was always hope. And so once you have hope, and I'm not sure what comes first, either having options that give you hope or having hope to search out options. It's chicken and the egg there right at that moment. But I did know that I just need to keep searching. And so that really carries over with me now with my patients, because seeing difficult cases, I always think that, well, we just haven't thought of the right kind of therapy yet. We just haven't thought of the correct way of handling you, the individual. We just haven't thought deeply or widely enough to basically address your unique case. And that's going to require me, as the person that's helping you, to stretch and to grow in order to accommodate you who's brought this unique problem to me. And so we both really learn. We both really, accomplish something in the process. And that to me is why I love doing what I do.
Mm-hmm.
not only because I can help a lot of people, but because it continually stimulates me to grow, to use my mind. And I think that's one of the greatest gifts as we get older, is to use our minds, our wisdom, to help others. And
that's what I tell everybody too. I say, just because you haven't found the answer doesn't mean it's not out there. You've tried this, 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 and this. If that's not working, then we keep searching. There is always, I guess this is kind of a yin-yang principle. If there is a question, there is an answer.
Right. And like I tell my students, I says, it's not about always having answers. In fact, if you really want to gain wisdom, you have to ask good questions.
Oh, listen to that, everyone. Okay.
So it's in the questions that you really come to, the epiphanies and that place of peace. So it's asking questions of yourself. It's asking questions of what's getting in my way, asking questions of what has not been addressed, what has not been thought of. Everybody is thinking this way. They're going to the right or the left. What if I go the opposite direction? What if I look there? And so it's that searching and never giving up, because that's an inquisitive mind. That's in a mind of a child who wants to learn about things. And it's the innocence of the child and wanting to learn about the world. Well, if you give up, you close down that willingness and the ability to ask questions. And so then the world starts to close in around you, because the world and the people in it are to be discovered.
Oh, so well said. Oh, my goodness. Dr. Ted, let's look for a second. I know our listeners, I know everybody who's out there is curious about what Qigong medicine is.
Okay.
If you could describe that?
Well, I think what's happening now is more and more people are becoming aware of acupuncture. And they're becoming more aware of it for pain. They're more aware of it. It's used in hospitals post-surgically now to address not only pain, but allow people not to use as much anesthesia. There's so many different ways that acupuncture is finding its way into mainstream. And so acupuncture is kind of like what you first learn in Chinese medicine. You learn the orientation, the anatomy, the physiology of the body. You learn where the points are. You learn where meridians are. You learn how they flow, how they move in the body, kind of like a surgeon learns anatomy and physiology. But then, in the advanced study, you learn how the energy that is moving in there can really get blocked. It can get blocked physiologically. It can get blocked emotionally, and it can get blocked spiritually. Those are what we call the three dantians, or the three treasures. And so once we understand that the energy is blocked, and just addressing it very calmly in a matter-of-fact fashion, we can begin to work on where is it blocked, why is it blocked, and what can we do to counterbalance that to bring the body back into homeostasis or balance. So Qigong therapy is two different things. One, it's Qigong that you practice to keep yourself healthy, to keep your flow going, to keep everything moving through the meridians, to keep your physical body, your emotional mind, and your spiritual mind balanced and harmonized. But when someone's ill, and they're in a place where they're stuck and they need assistance, then they go to someone like myself who does clinical Qigong or medical Qigong or medical Daoyin or clinical Daoyin. There's so many different names across the different countries that are used, where we assist a person through Qi manipulation, through the laying of hands, through stimulation of points, through the stimulation of deep meridians that flow inside the body, which are not available to acupuncturists because you can only needle so deep.
Okay.
But if you can command the energy deeper within the body, then this is where a lot of times when people have deep emotional trauma or physical trauma, it's inaccessible to the acupuncturist, but we can get at it.
So Ted, even if the acupuncturist puts electrodes on the needles or does that cupping thing, that still doesn't get deep enough.
That isn't deep enough. It's still more topical.
Okay.
So if you understand acupuncture, and acupuncture is absolutely wonderful. I'm not saying anything bad about it. What I'm saying is on the next level, according to the Neijing, which is in the ancient classical Chinese medicine text, it talks about that once you understand the orientation of the body, one must begin to cultivate themselves so that they can command the energies of the body, whether that's through the needle or it's through cupping. So this is now where we're getting into Qi projection. So the therapist projecting Qi to stimulate the other person's Qi. And that takes a lot of self-cultivation, introspection, meditation, and so forth to allow your energy to be clear enough that then I can manipulate someone else's energy. And so we can address these deeper issues because energy can talk to energy. We're not limited by the physical barrier.
Mm-hmm. Energy can talk to energy.
Right.
Oh, someday. I'm in kindergarten compared to you. It's just, it's fascinating. And I know Dr. Ted has mentioned several times, if that be my journey, God, then get me back up there to lead.
Well, I've spent my life studying energy in my own body to understand how it was blocked. And now, after studying with my mentor, and I studied with him for over 12 years, learning about the deeper aspects of Chinese medicine from an oral tradition that's not in books, it's not in acupuncture schools. Mm-hmm. Most of my students are acupuncturists or doctors or nurses or people in healthcare profession, because they want to go deeper.
Beautiful.
And so there's so much that's available that we could be using that, you know, in the oral traditions, because it's a summation of all these thousands of years of information. There's answers for cancer. There's answers for MS. There's answers for fibromyalgia. All of these chronic diseases have answers to them.
Yes, yes. And you and your students are the true healers.
Well, thank you. My students are going to carry on this tradition so that it doesn't die. And they're going to educate their patients and so on and so forth. It just keeps mushrooming it out. And that's what the Chinese call lineage. Lineage becomes very important. Who taught you? Who did you learn from?
Yes.
And then who did you teach?
Who taught you? Who did you learn from? And who did you teach? Beautiful. That's one of my callings, definitely, is teaching.
Right.
I love teaching, to teach other therapists. Here's something that you might want to consider to be able to help your clients more thoroughly, deeper, find out where that unconscious resistance is and be able to address it.
Right. I mean, it's giving back. And one of the things that I teach my students, which is part of medical Qigong therapy, is that it's very specific and unique exercises that we give to the patient so that they can empower themselves, like I empowered myself when I was a child. But they can take that home and work on that themselves. So they feel like they are empowering themselves and taking control, and I work myself out of a job.
Yes.
is basically what happens, because they then can learn to control through the exercises that we give them. It's kind of like physical therapy in a way. But it's very it's specified to the uniqueness that you're bringing in. So it's customized. And then you practice that, just like somebody would go to the gym.
When my clients come in, thank heavens we have smartphones now.
Yeah.
Because I say, okay, I want you to film me as I show you what I want you to do at home at least 3 times a day.
Yes.
So now you have a recording of it, and it's your job to do this.
Yeah.
And then we'll see what happens when you come back, what your system is doing, and then we'll go on to the next thing.
And there should be an improvement. And so that person, by their own cultivation, helps themselves to get better. It's like my dad said, right? God helps those who help
themselves.
So you know, this is the most empowering thing we can do for people. And eventually, once they, dare I say, heal themselves, they're going to be hopefully willing to tell other people about their journey.
Right.
Which is inspirational for other people to help themselves.
This is the best podcast.
Hopefully.
Ted, tell everyone some examples. I know that I saw on Facebook, and then you sent me the story of the police officer in Leechburg. Since he's been in the news, I guess he doesn't mind us talking about him.
Right.
What happened with him? How did you help him?
Well, he was injured in a pyrotechnics display at one of the Leechburg carnivals, and he's licensed to set off fireworks. Well, something horribly went wrong, and one of the fireworks discharged. Long story short, it literally blew off his arm right below the elbow.
Oh my God.
And so instant amputation. Of course, they life flighted him, and he's doing fine. And he has such a marvelous, wonderful attitude about how he's going to move on from this. He's not stuck at all in the past. He has no PTSD, and he's looking forward to his new future. And what a wonderful inspiration this man is. I'm not going to mention his name, but
no.
What a wonderful inspiration he is. And he came to me, and what's happening, like with a lot of people that have amputations, a lot of people that lose limbs in accidents and so forth, is they have what's called phantom pain.
Right.
And that is basically, it hurts where the limb used to be, like it's still there. Well, see, energetically, it is still there. The meridians are still running, but obviously there's not the physical component to it. So what I've been actually doing is, through the power of Qigong, is giving new instructions to the body, his physical body, about where his limb actually ends. Cool. Reprogramming all the meridian systems and running chi back through it so that the phantom pain is lessening. And he described that, like, part of the pain is that he felt that his hand was clenched in a fist, held so tightly that he would get these electrical charges running into his hand. Well, after just one Qigong session, his hand, he said, his hand that is no longer there, he felt it open. Okay. And he felt his hand relax. And he felt like his hand was now closer to where his appendage actually ends.
Wow.
So this is, you know, it's a strange thing, I guess, when you step back and you, from a grounded perspective, you're hearing all of this. But to the person who's going through the pain, person who is going through the experience of this, for them to feel the difference, that's all I worry about.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care even what you call it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care about the name.
Right.
As long as that person can get their life back. That's the most important thing.
Wow.
So that's what Qigong can do in one instance.
You mentioned fibromyalgia, multiple sclerosis, and cancer.
Right.
Talk a little bit about fibromyalgia, what that's all about, and how you help people with that.
In my experience, what I have found is a lot of people with fibromyalgia have a lot of what we would call blocked meridians due to a lot of emotional content.
Mm.
And once that emotional content and meridians are released, the pain goes away. Because one of the classic things about fibromyalgia, even a clinical diagnosis, is that there's points on the back that they measure. And those points have to come up to so many, I think it's like 10 points, and you got to have 7 of them active for a person to have a clinical diagnosis of fibromyalgia. Well, the funny thing about it is if you talk to most of the fibro patients, those points move. They're not always static. Their pain moves, and that's why it's so difficult to pinpoint. Well, we call that wind in Chinese medicine, and the wind moves through the body. It's a very common thing in Chinese medicine. So basically what we do is we calm the winds moving through the channels and the meridians, and we stimulate the acupoints so that they can release the emotions and so that they can purge a lot of the things that are being kept in. In other words, release the wind and release the emotion at the same time. Over time, that person's pain and the constant beating of that pain lessens.
Wow. See, for everyone who's out there, do not lose hope on whatever physical situation that you have. Physical, emotional, spiritual, whatever situation you have, do not lose hope, because Dr. Ted, through medical Qigong, can help you find the answer for all this. If traditional Western medicine isn't enough, there are other options. And I'm going to say, no, it's not covered by insurance, but do it anyway. Because here's the deal. Do you want to continue to suffer? Or do you want to get this? Do you want your life back? Okay. Save your pennies and get on up there. Here's the deal. Whatever you pay, the hundreds of hours that you spend searching through Western medicine, all your deductibles and all your copay. Actually, this is cheaper than all that stuff. I don't know about every plan, of course, but I'm just saying, make the investment in yourself to explore other options.
From someone who can authentically say this, from someone who did not immediately have their health, having your health back and being able to live life and look forward to every morning of getting up and what adventure you're going to get into and what you're going to do today and what you're going to manifest and how you're going to spread joy and love and compassion and so forth, because you yourself feel it, because you have a gratefulness for this life. And when you can do that and you look forward to that every day and you're feeling good and you want to do this, there is no better way to live. It's an authentic way to live. And people that are trapped in pain and people that are trapped in their own mind have to remember that sometimes they have to take control back and they have to look and to seek for other options. Never give up hope. There's answers.
There are answers. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, you know, I mean, I had recently a very sweet woman come in, and ironically, I treated her son-in-law many years before, and at that time, he had told me about his mother-in-law who had MS, who was in a wheelchair and so forth. And I thought, oh, that's so sad. That's so sad. Because she really loved to be outdoors and outside, and, you know, she wanted to be on a farm, and she loved the chickens, and, you know, all of those things that really brought her joy. And with the wheelchair, it became less and less, to the point where she had to move away from the farm. She had to go into not necessarily an assisted living, but a place where, in fact, a lot of people have wheelchair accessible amenities and apartments and so forth. And so she finally came to see me. She saved up her money. She's obviously on a limited budget and so forth, and she came to see me. I'm going to fast forward to the story. 3 months later, she came in walking, holding her cane. This is a person who was in a wheelchair for years, and she came in to see me walking. 2 months later, she drove to see me. So let that sink in for a moment. Now, this person went home and did her homework. She did everything I told her, and I told her her full-time job is to get well. So that means that if you go to work for 8 hours, which is a normal job, you have to work 8 hours at getting better. She did it. Because she did that, she's not walking.
Wow.
That's not the norm, and not everybody that has MS is going to get out of the wheelchair and walk. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying it is possible.
It is possible.
Her neurologist cannot believe it. Like, they couldn't believe when she first walked in for an appointment. They had to do a double take. They didn't think it was the same person, because she's smiling ear to ear. Uh-huh. She's happy. And then, as she told me, she says she danced for them.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So, wouldn't it be fascinating? God bless her, number one. God bless you, and God bless her for her healing and her wellness. I'm just wondering, wouldn't it be a hoot if the neurologist wanted to study under you and find out how that happened?
Well, he's already sending me patients.
Okay. Ta-da.
So that's fine. I welcome that, but they have to understand, like her, they have to do the work.
Yes.
So really, they are the ones doing the healing.
I want to show everybody something here. This is my magic wand. I use it when I consult with people, and I say, okay, put your negative thought into the light, and then I do brain balancing work with them. But sometimes I'll just take it out and I'll say, well, I do have this magic wand, and I will wave it over you, and we will make your problems go away. So then I wave it over them, and I'll say, okay, now, do you still feel bad? Do you still have depression? Do you still have that negative thought? Well, I guess my magic wand didn't work, so now we're really going to have to put some time into this. Now it's your responsibility to do what I ask you to do.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But I love my magic wand.
Yeah, and that's a nice, very succinct way to put it across to people, that sometimes it falls back on the client.
Always.
To do the work. And we're kind of coaching.
Right.
We're just giving you the program. You know, it's no different than if you want to play football.
Right.
You got to exercise, but you're the one that has to do the exercise. Okay. The coach doesn't have to do it.
I'm exercising. Believe me, my new norm is sore. Soreness is a wonderful thing. All my muscles are waking up.
Love it.
Dr. Ted, you're at inner-strength.org. Is there any other information? You're on Facebook. How do you want people to reach you? Because I can see everybody say, okay, Joan, how do I get in touch with this person, this healer?
Well, it's inner-strength.org or .com. We have both.
Okay.
You can also just Google Inner Strength Qigong, and you'll find me, or Ted Cibik and Qigong, and you'll find a lot of different references.
Okay.
They'll find, how to get in touch with me email-wise, phone number-wise, many different articles that I've written and so forth they can read. So it's a great starting place.
Okay. If you Google Dr. Ted, it's TED and then C as in Charles, IBIC, just so everybody knows how to spell it.
Yeah, it's IK.
Oh, Lord. See, I'm glad I did that. C-I-B.
Yeah, it's a tricky name.
Not really. I'm just so fascinated by our conversation, I forgot how to spell. If anybody wants to reach me, if you don't already know, joankaler.com. And I'm all over the internet, too, if anybody wants to come in for some counseling.
That would be a wise choice.
Oh, thank you, sir. I learned so much from you, and I'm setting the intention that I will learn more. I'm so grateful to everyone who's listening today. If I actually am able to get this up as an MP4 so people can watch us, I'm so grateful for everybody watching today. Please tell your friends, coworkers, and any human that you know to listen to this podcast so that you will get this information. Please pass this wisdom along.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ted Cibik, for joining me today, teaching us what is possible.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to be with you again, and I hope this reaches that one right person that needs to hear the message.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to say goodbye for now. Bye, everyone. Thank you.